It's an absolute pleasure to be back for my second presentation today. Hello to everyone that's online right now, Greater Dandenong, and hello to anyone who may be actually watching this as a recording later on. Before I begin, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which we all meet on today and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and we acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. So today I'll be sharing with you some of my hot tips. So that's low to medium cost upgrades to get your energy usage down to save some cash on your bills. The simple action of reducing your energy consumption is not only good for your back pocket, but it's also good for the planet, because reducing your consumption of electricity and increasing the energy efficiency of your home is a really powerful weapon in the arsenal to combat climate change. So the equation is really simple. Energy not used means emissions not generated. And how are we going to tackle this session today? Well, I've broken it down into 3 really easy key steps, and we'll knock these ones each off today. So the first one is all around understanding your bill and finding the best energy deal that you can be on. The second step is about identifying the areas of our homes that are the large ticket items of energy use, and then from there understanding how to get that down. And then the last section will go through renewable options as well as in-home monitoring. Also, I'm always looking for new tips and tricks to add to my hot tips, so my low to medium cost upgrades. So if there's anything that you have potentially implemented yourself at home, please add that to the chat function at any time. Much like any questions, this session will run for about 45 minutes, and I should have about 15 minutes, depending on how my timing's going, to answer those questions. So without further ado, let's begin. So I'm from AEF. We are a for-purpose organisation, and we're leading the way to an equitable zero carbon society. We've been around for more than 20 years. And what we do is we partner with local governments and communities. And through that partnership, we help develop and accelerate through different projects and show examples of a pathway to a zero carbon society. So that's what brings me to be presenting to you all today on energy efficiency. So step 1, how do you find the best energy deal? Don't worry about any of those other review sites that you see online. They're not worth your time. The best and only one you should be going to is the Victorian Government Energy Compare website. It's as simple as going online with your most current bill, and you simply scroll to compare plans that are available according to your address. I've done this a couple of times when I've switched rental properties. Also, I think like the best sort of frequency to review your retailer would be perhaps once a year or at least every 2 years. And the reason why is that the deals tend to change, and you could be signed up to a deal that's quite old, and in fact there's actually cheaper ones that are available. So it's definitely worth checking, and through regularly checking, it means that you know that you are getting the best price that you can get. Most people save somewhere between $200 up to $400 through just simply reviewing your retailer and switching. Additionally, there is a $250 rebate. It's called the Power Saving Bonus that's available to all Victorians who have experienced some sort of hardship during the restrictions. There are some eligibility criteria. So if you are interested in finding out more about that rebate, I highly recommend heading to this Victorian Energy Compare website. There's an application form on there. They make it really easy. And it's $250 off both your gas, electricity and water bills, which is pretty amazing. And as we socially distance more, and even more so as of 6 p.m. tonight, to help slow the spread of COVID-19, many of us, will continue to spend more and more time at home than we ever did. So whether schooling, working, or just being at home or in general. And the last thing that you really need is a higher electricity bill, particularly coming into winter. It's a really good idea to hopefully implement some of the changes I'll be sharing with you tonight in order to avoid what we call bill shock. So that's at the end of the season, when you've turned your heater on and that you get your bill 90 days later and it's through the roof. And there's not really anything that you can do to reduce that, because that usage has already happened. So it's about being aware of when we are spending more time at home and when we are going to be using our appliances more, and making choices in that moment that will avoid that bill shock. And that graph there on the screen just shows the jump in residential energy consumption that occurred last year when we switched to working and schooling from home. So at its peak, we saw that most residential homes in Victoria experienced a 30% increase in electricity consumption in the home. That's quite a jump. And so that's obviously translated into people having higher bills. So just something to be aware of. Okay, so that first step's really simple. I'm just asking you to pop on to review your energy retailer to make sure that you are getting the best deal that you can get. Our second step comes with a poll first. So I'll just ask, oh, beautiful, thank you very much. So I have a question for you all this afternoon. Up on the screen there, you'll see that there is a breakdown on the left of the things that use energy in our homes. And on the right, we have a pie chart with a breakdown of percentages. So I'm asking you, what areas of the home do you think are use the most energy? So the big ticket items. So I'll just give you a couple of moments to answer those questions. I might perhaps leave that one up and we can revisit that. So please submit your answers at any time. I'm going to quickly go. Thank you. I've got one person answering. Great. There's also a couple of other polls in there too. Please take your time to answer those questions, and I will get to the answers to the second and the third poll a little bit later in the presentation. Thank you. I've got a couple more votes. Excellent. I'm about to reveal the answers to the first one, so I'm just waiting for a couple more answers. All right, thank you very much. So I'm going to reveal the answers. I'm going to keep that poll going for a little bit, just to get a couple more votes, and I'll share those results a little bit later too. So here are the answers. The big ticket items on our energy bills in the home, heating and cooling comes in first. So about 40% of our energy bills are related to heating and cooling costs, which is quite a lot. And that's closely followed by hot water heating. And then following, we have home appliances such as TVs and computers, fridges and freezers, lighting, cooking, and standby power. So I will go through each one of these focus areas now, and I'll provide you with some tips around how to reduce that consumption. Okay, so our first priority area is heating. So that's the big ticket item on our energy bills. It's heating and cooling, but I'm just going to focus on heating because we're coming into winter now. So before you even think about turning on your heater, there are three key things that are really important to look at to increase the thermal efficiency of our homes. And those are listed on the screen there. So the first one's draft proofing, second is insulation, and third is window coverings. So if these three things are good, in our homes, then it reduces the need for us to heat and cool as much, because our homes are able to maintain a bit more of a stable temperature, and not having to pump hot air or cold air into your home all the time means that you are going to see a reduction in your bill and a reduction in your footprint as well. So draft proofing, you may be asking what the devil that is. It's all about finding air leaks in the home and fixing them up to make your home more comfortable. Up to 25% of winter heat loss from existing houses is caused by air leakages. So drafts are caused by gaps and cracks which allow cold air in winter and hot air in summer to leak in. So some common examples are on the screen there. There's quite a few sneaky little spaces in our homes where air can leak both in and out. Some common examples might include seeing daylight underneath your doors or around window frames, seeing your curtains or blinds move when it's windy outside, or maybe rattling in a storm. There's a big storm coming over now, so if your windows rattle during that, you might need to consider doing some draft proofing. Some other ways of checking for air leaks would be to feel moving air against your hand or on wet skin. So feel around doors, windows, fireplaces, air outlets, vents, stairways, floorboards, exposed rafters and beams. Just do a walkthrough of your home and note down where you do feel those drafts. On average, if we do add up all the draft holes in our home, it roughly equates to the size of a large football. So I think that's a pretty big hole. And I think if it was just to be that hole off our lounge room, we'd be more inclined to fill that one up. So it's really worth finding and sealing up these drafts. There are a wide range of products available from most home improvement stores. There are many products designed to fit under a door, such as a door snake, which you see in the middle image there. You can also use weather seals. So that is a product that you attach to the bottom of your door. So then when you shut it, it's completely sealed. There's no leaks. There are even, there's a whole huge range of foam or rubber tapes that you can get that you simply put around the door frame or a window. So that way, when you're shutting it, you're ensuring that it is sealed. Air vents are a great one to cover up, particularly in winter. If you have ducted ceiling evaporative cooling vents that you hopefully aren't using in winter, there are a series of products that you can buy, covers that you can buy online that are attached via a magnet. So that way you can make sure that you're not sucking all that warm air out of the room through those evaporative cooling vents. Because heated air can escape from around the outside of outlets, as well as through the louvres and the ductwork of those. A lot of older houses as well tend to have wall vents that open up to the outside, and that's shown in the picture on the right there. You're allowed to cover those up, particularly so in winter, because they can be a major source of drafts. Just be careful though, if you do have gas heating, so specifically an unflued gas heater, you should not be covering those up because you do require some ventilation with those. If you don't know if that's the case for you, please just reach out. I'll give my contact details at the end. Core flute, that's like sort of plastic cardboard, is also a great product that you can use to cover these air vents as well. Chimneys. If you have a chimney in your home and it's not stuffed up, well, if you're not, hopefully you're not using it. Don't stuff it up if you're using it, because that could be quite smoky in the end. But if you've got a chimney and you no longer use the fireplace, a chimney balloon or a chimney dampener is a really good idea to install. That just ensures that the chimney is sealed off. Because in winter, remember that hot air does rise, and if you've got a chimney and you're heating a room, that hot air is going to be sucked out of the chimney, and that's translating into you having to heat your room for longer and experiencing a bill because you're quickly losing that heat you're pumping in. This website is amazing. It's called Green It Yourself. There's a whole series of really easy to follow videos on how to draft proof DIY at home. The lady that does the videos used to be on this TV show called Carbon Cops, which is really cool. I wish it was still around, but we have these videos instead. So that will take you through basically all the draft proofing that I've skimmed over today, or I've briefly introduced to you, and even more. So I highly recommend giving this one a looking at and giving it a go. So all the solutions are very, very low cost, even no cost in relation to this video. Because draft proofing is one of those things that's really easy for us to do in the home at that no or low cost. Yeah, by the time, you would only really consider going to an installer if you weren't able to do those on your own. But it's really easy to give it a go on your own first, and ask family or friends to help out as well if you're having trouble. That's always the best option. Okay, so we've looked at our draft proofing. The second area that's really important for us to consider when we're increasing the thermal efficiency of our homes is insulation. So most critical to insulation will be the ceiling insulation. It's really important for keeping our homes warm and also keeping them cool in summer. So having correct R value, which is the rating of insulation, is really important because it can actually cut your bills by about 40 to 50%, and it's going to make them more comfortable. And chances are, if your home was insulated before 2010, that it probably doesn't have enough insulation in place, or it's been moved out. And that was just due to the correct R value of insulation being for our climate. So the value of insulation was ratified in the building code. So previously there wasn't a standard that builders needed to adhere to. Now there is a standard for insulation. So, and as insulation also gets older, or you might have vermin in your roof, it does tend to come out of place a little bit, or maybe just could be completely blown away, as you can see in the images on the screen there. Just wanted to let you know that any sort of even a 5% gap in your insulation does actually dramatically reduce its effectiveness. So it's worth just knowing about insulation, and if you can, stick your head up into the roof cavity and see if you can check on the status of your insulation. Of course, only do so if it is safe, and if you do have an access to the roof cavity. After checking on the status of our insulation, the third key step would be to look at window coverings. So there are a number of ways energy transfers in and out of our homes, and that's demonstrated in the diagram on the screen there. So we looked at air leakages first, which we see about a 15 to 25% winter heat loss via air leakages. And then we just looked at insulation. So ceiling, there's a 25 to 35% winter heat loss. And we've also got here walls and floors. So that just refers to the insulation. When there's a lack of insulation, you do have an increased amount of heat loss that you will experience. This third section I'm covering is windows. So in winter, we see about a 10 to 20% heat loss via our windows. And just be mindful, if you do have larger windows, this percentage can be a lot more. So if you've got a ceiling to floor type window and a lot of them, and you don't have adequate coverings, and you're experiencing a cold home or high energy bills, I'd suggest taking a look at your window coverings. There are some really simple options for window coverings. In an ideal, I guess the best thing that you could do for your windows, and probably the cheapest, is to invest in a heavy lined drape that reaches all the way to the floor. And you want that in combination with a pelmet. And that's that box that sits above the curtain rail. Helmets are often overlooked and thought of as a bit ugly. They're not ugly, they are sexy, I tell you, because they serve a really good purpose in our homes. They keep us warm. There's also a whole range of what we call invisible helmets that are now available. They're made out of acrylic. They're really worth investing in because it can be just as effective as double glazing. And double glazing is amazing. However, it's so expensive and it's quite hard to do when you are retrofitting. It's more of a new build option. So the simple, the simple addition of a curtain and a helmet can do wonders. You can even make helmets yourself out of timber. You can roll up a towel, which is shown in the image on the right. That serves as a good temporary helmet. My friend actually made some out of cardboard, which worked really well. I was very surprised. It's a good idea to have those helmets, and the reason why you would have a helmet and cover your windows is just to stop that warm air that's coming from your heater from touching the inside of the window, because as soon as that warm air hits the window, it will be cooled down and then it will recirculate back into the room. And as long as that keeps happening, you're experiencing a heat loss, and that's translating into you having to heat your room for longer, and it's going to be a lot on your bills. Some other really simple options for window coverings, some DIY secondary glazing would be to utilize bubble wrap. Bubble wrap has air pockets, and if you simply just use double-sided tape to install it on the inside of your window, it can make quite a difference. So what it does is it slows down the transfer of temperature. It effectively mimics the properties of double glazing. A great solution for perhaps a laundry, a bathroom, or even a kitchen that is really cold in winter, this will make a difference. Doesn't look as pretty. You could pair it with maybe a sheer curtain, but if you are really feeling the cold, pretty doesn't really matter too much. The second option is a plastic window film, which is installed using a temporary tape. They're a good DIY solution. They're a little bit finicky though. They're best with a timber frame, not an aluminium frame. But if you're DIY inclined, I highly recommend giving it a go. There's actually a really easy to follow video from that Green It Yourself website I shared before. There's an easy to follow one if you're interested in that plastic window filming. Additionally, because there's such a big car tinting industry these days, it's really brought the home window tinting market. It's been born out. The window tinting market for the home has been born out of the car tinting movement. So that's really exciting because there's a whole range of amazing environmental films that are available. And these are a really good option outside of double glazing. They're about a quarter of the cost of double glazing to do your whole home, which is great. And they're fantastic for when you are retrofitting because they simply are installed on the inside of the glass and you don't need to make any changes to the frames at all. So they also do block out UV rays. And there's a fact there on the screen that they lower your energy cost because you're upping the thermal performance of your windows. So a reduction of around 30% of energy used by the cooling system in this example. So this is a really good option if you have large windows like the image on the screen there, and perhaps you don't have adequate window coverings like a blind or a heavy line drape. Utilizing a window film will make a dramatic difference. And as you can see, there's not much difference in the visibility of the film versus it being unfilmed. So in that image you see on the screen there, on the right, that's the window film that's been installed. And on the left, and on the right is it hasn't been installed. So there's not much difference at all. It doesn't really change the visibility. So that's a really good option. It does work best with timber or insulated aluminium frames as well. Okay, so we've looked at draft proofing, we've looked at our window coverings, we've had a little check on insulation. Another way to save that's quite low cost to save energy in the home is to utilise personal heating habits, particularly in winter. And when we are schooling and working from home, you really want to think about heating yourself first, because that's going to be the cheapest way and the quickest way for you to feel warm. I use a heated throw rug all the time in winter. They are so cozy and lovely, and it significantly reduces my need to turn on the heater. They're about 3 cents per hour to run. They're very cheap to buy. They also double up as a beautiful gift, I've found, to give to family and friends too. There's also a ridiculous amount of really affordable personal heating clothing that is available now too. There's heated jackets that are getting really popular. So they're all really good solutions because they're quite cheap to run, and you're not having to turn your heater on to heat a space. It's a better idea to heat yourself first than heat an entire space. Oh, I revealed the answers to you. So I'm going to end that poll now. Hopefully you've all had some time to answer the questions. Oh, and we're sharing. Beautiful. Thank you very much for that. So the first poll was all about what areas of the home use the most energy. And well done, everyone. You got it right. Heating and cooling is the #1 ticket item, which we've now been through. So that's I'm glad that everyone answered that question correctly because I gave you the answers. The second question is what heater is the cheapest to run? So I'm about to reveal the answers in the next slide, but I'd just like to go over what everyone thinks today. So 29% believe that a reverse cycle air conditioner is the cheapest to run, and that's the same as the panel convection heater got the same votes as well, 30%. And then after that, we had fan heater, gas heater, and radiant heater, all on 14%. Thank you. And I'll just go through, I'll go through the third, before I reveal the answers to that poll and let you know if you're right or wrong. I'd just like to go through the third section, which is about what are the main concerns in terms of energy use in the home. So a lot of people have highlighted that heating and cooling appliances is a major concern in the home. Well, I'm glad that you've joined this evening and that you're finding the content helpful so far. I will make my details available at the end. So if there's anything that I've missed or you have a curly question, please submit that to me. After that, we've got improving energy efficiency, energy bills too high, 14%, house too hot, drafts and air leaks, energy literacy. I highly recommend potentially rewatching the session from this morning, which was energy saving advice for rental properties. We went through a little bit on energy literacy, so that's a good one to check out. And insulation is another one that people have indicated that is a main concern. So thank you very much for sharing those with me. That does help tailor my advice to you this evening, or this afternoon, apologies. So you might just need to close that box off your window now. Okay, let's find out what is the cheapest heater to run. So the cheapest heater to run to heat a space is always going to be, well, at the moment, is a reverse cycle air conditioner. And that's about 18 cents per hour to run, and that's in the bottom corner. The reason why it is the cheapest to run is because of the technology that it uses. It's heat pump technology, and it's just a much more efficient transfer of electricity into heat or cool. Anything that is electric and plug-in, unfortunately, is always going to be a bit of a drain on your power bills, particularly the smaller portable heaters. They're not, I wouldn't rely on those to, I would not rely on those to heat a space. I would only rely on those to heat you for a short period of time. So those include the ceramic fan heater, which is in the top left, the radiant bar heater, which is in the middle, and then down the bottom, left, you've got an oil column heater, and then you've got the convection heater next to the oil column heater. So all those portable ones are going to be around somewhere between 50 and 70 cents per hour to run. So that's quite expensive in comparison to the reverse cycle. And you also need to take into consideration that these smaller devices are going to take a lot longer as well to heat a space and to make you feel warm. So you are going to end up paying a lot more for longer utilising these devices. However, they do serve a good purpose. It's just you need to be smart with the way that you use them. So use them for short periods of time and use them for only small spaces, so not heating a large room. Gas heating on the top right-hand corner, a lot of properties in Victoria are still connected to gas. There is a movement away from gas, and that's for a couple of reasons. The first being that it's a fossil finite fuel. If you have gas appliances in your home, you don't have the ability to power them with renewables. The second reason is that gas prices in general are on the rise. So they will continue to increase from sort of into the future forever, because it's a finite fossil fuel. So that's another reason to get away from it as well. And also there are emissions that are associated with them in the home as well that make them a little bit, they present health issues in comparison to other heating methods. Okay, I hope that you've all got a good idea around how much your heater is costing you this winter. So that way you can prioritise its usage to avoid that bill shock. In addition to utilising your heater for the space that you are heating, so using your heater, the heater that you have under the best conditions will also improve its efficiency and reduce your how much you pay on your bills. So we're using the right heater for the right space and for what we're trying to heat. Additionally, we're also going to adhere to only set our heater between 18 and 20 degrees. So this is considered the optimal running temperatures for our heaters. So for any 1 degree you do go above that 18 or 20 degrees, it does roughly equate to a 10% increase in its running cost. So if you're someone who's jacking the heater up onto 30 and you're wondering why you've got a high bill, it could be because it's on 30 degrees. So I've got it up there for cooling as well. So in summer, try and stick to somewhere between 24 and 26 degrees, and that same 10% does apply for each degree that you set it lower than that. Another good idea is to only heat or cool the room that you are using. Zone it as much as you can, so that involves closing doors or using door curtains. They're a really good option if you have an open plan living space. So we've reached our second priority area. So hot water heating makes up about 25% of our energy bills. So I'm just sharing with you some really simple tips to use less hot water. In winter, in winter we do tend to use a lot more hot water, and up to 70% of our hot water is used in the shower. So it's a good idea to limit that shower to 4 minutes. And you're also going to save water as well, which is nice. Use a timer as much as you can, or listen to your favourite song. That's always good advice to stick to 4 minutes. Avoid baths as well. Try and use showers. Baths typically use about double the amount of water and energy of a shower. Upgrade to a 3-star shower head if you haven't already. That'll halve the amount of hot water and energy used per minute. Try and use the cold wash setting as much as you can on your washing machine. That's another way to get your hot water usage down. And look at devices such as a shower dome, which is in the bottom right-hand picture. It's a nifty little device designed by a New Zealander from a cold climate. So you simply get a shower dome. You can make one out of Perspex as well. Attach it to the top of your shower. And so what it does is when you're turning the shower on in the morning, you get that steam. The steam is is just confined to your shower. So you're gonna feel warm, you're gonna have your own personal sauna spa, which is pretty amazing. And also the benefits of using a shower dome are that you have less condensation after you have the shower, and so that means you've got less mold issues as well, and less need for ventilation. Some tips for your current hot water service would be to make sure the pipes are insulated that go in and out of your hot water unit. You can do that with foam tubing. It's known as lagging, and you would do that to prevent heat loss. Especially the two meters closest to your water heater, the most important part of the pipe. So if you're someone who in your home, you turn on the tap, it takes a really long time for that hot water to come through, it could be because you are missing some insulation on your hot water service pipes. So I highly recommend having a look and trying to find some lagging or insulation from a home improvement store to put on the pipes. Other advice on getting your water down would be to turn it down on the system if you can. So if you have an instantaneous hot water system, check that your thermostat is no higher than 50 degrees Celsius. And if it's an electric hot water service, it should be set no higher than 60 degrees. Additionally, we always recommend people have a plan in place for when your current hot water system does reach the end of its life. So what tends to happen is when our hot water system goes, it becomes this crazy emergency where we can't live without hot water, and we tend to replace our hot water service with what's already existing, so what we already have. And we do that without, we haven't done much research on what is actually more efficient on the market. So I recommend checking out what's called a hot water heat pump. It uses the same technology as a reverse cycle air conditioner or your fridge. So it's just a much more efficient way of heating water. It uses about it's 85% more efficient than a conventional electric storage system. So that's a dramatic reduction in energy. They're super efficient. And there's also a whole suite of rebates that are available on these efficient hot water services. And I've got a link to those. I've just mentioned them on the screen there. I will post all those links I'm mentioning today in our chat at the end. So I highly recommend doing your research on a hot water heat pump and knowing what you would invest in when your current hot water service does reach the end of its life. So I'd say anywhere past 7 years old, if your hot water service is past 7 years old, do your research so you know what you would do it with, replace it with. Okay, our third big ticket item in the home appliances. The advice we share here is pretty straightforward. So if you're not using it, number one tip, turn it off and try and turn it off at the wall as much as you can. So that way you're avoiding all standby power. Utilize energy saving functions as much as you can on your computer, your laptop, or your TV if possible. That's the best advice I can give. There's also a whole suite of really nifty devices you can get, such as a mains timer. So if you've got a study or a lounge room, you can have a switch that just turns off everything at the main switch at night, which is really good to avoid any standby power. And it removes you having to go around turning everything off at the wall as well. Our fourth priority area, fridges and freezers. So a really important thing with our fridges and freezers is to get the settings correct. And so those settings are, shown on the screen there. So ideally your fridge should be set to somewhere between 3 and 4 degrees to operate optimally. And remember that any sort of increase in that does increase its running cost because you're asking your fridge to work a little bit harder. So you're going to be paying more. For your freezer, it should be somewhere between -15 and -18. So if you do have a temperature temperature display in your fridge, this can be quite easy to set. But if you have a fridge that just has a dial, that's okay. I recommend getting a little thermometer and popping it in your fridge. and just adjusting your dial until you do achieve that 3 to 4 degrees in your fridge. So that's a good way of getting around that. Some more advice would be to consolidate everything into one fridge or one freezer. So what tends to happen is that we might have a beer fridge or a chest freezer that's running in the garage. Chances are that it's a lot older than the fridge in the kitchen, and probably not as efficient as it used to be. And those old fridges also do tend to be a bit leaky via the seals. So it's a good idea to retire those old fridges as soon as you can, because they can draw quite a bit of power, and that can be contributing to high energy bills. And if you are in the market for any new appliance, always check out the Energy Star rating first. That'll give you an indication of how efficient that appliance is, and it'll tell you what its running costs are over a year and over its lifetime as well. So invest in a good system that's not going to hurt your back pocket on your energy bills later on. Check your fridge and freezer seals. That's really important too. So cleaning them, and also there's a test that you can do with a bit of paper, which is shown with a dollar bill as an example on the screen there. So you simply just close a bit of paper in the fridge door, and if it pulls out really quickly, chances are your seals aren't that great. But if it's hard to pull out, your seals are probably okay. So if you do have any gaps in the seals on your fridge, it means that your fridge is leaking. So your fridge is trying to achieve this 3-4 degrees, and if there's a gap in the seal, it's quickly escaping. So your fridge is having to work harder. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on those. They are quite easy to replace yourself, and there's also plethora of refrigeration repair places that you can get that done as well. All right, our fifth priority area, lighting. So if you haven't already upgraded to LEDs, I highly recommend you do. They are so much more efficient than all the older light bulbs. So if you have any of the following light bulbs on the screen, such as an incandescent, a halogen, or a compact fluorescent, retire them as soon as you can. They're super inefficient. They also sort of reach the end of their life a lot quicker than LEDs, I've noticed in the home. There's also a fantastic rebate available to all Victorians, and you can get a free LED lighting upgrade, which is pretty amazing. And just I'll have that link available for you at the end as well. So well done, everyone. We've reached our third key step, which is all about exploring renewable energy options. So the first thing I'd like to mention is in-home monitoring. It's becoming quite popular. It's really fantastic to be able to know real time how much energy you are consuming and how much it is costing you then and there. And the idea behind that, having that visibility, is that it's going to encourage you to make reductions in your home. And it's a really good tool if you have a problem appliance and you can't quite figure out what it is. You can switch it on and see if there's a change on the in-home monitoring system. So you can, it's as simple as having it on your tablet or your smartphone. You will need a device that attaches to your smart meter for this to be, and you will need an electrician to come around to have this installed. The Victorian government is currently offering rebates, which makes some in-home monitoring software free to Victorians, and that's on the Victorian Energy Upgrade program as well, and I'll share the link to that one too. So yeah, check that one out at the end if that's something that you are interested in. When you're reviewing your retailer with the Victorian Energy Compare website, it's a really good idea to look out for GreenPower providers, because you can offset all of your electricity with renewable energy if they are GreenPower. GreenPower is a government managed program as well, and each electricity retailer offers a GreenPower option. So just look out for that logo that you see on the screen there. So by purchasing GreenPower, you commit your GreenPower provider, so whoever you pay your bills to, the electricity retailer, to purchasing the equivalent amount of electricity from accredited renewable energy generators. So you can choose how much of your consumption to offset. It can be somewhere between 10 and 25% or 100%. And the extra couple of dollars that you do pay a month go towards supporting electricity generated from sources such as wind, solar, water, and bioenergy. There's also quite a few energy retailers that do fully offset consumption now as well. So look out for those retailers too. If you really want to cut down your home's footprint and bills, a great option is solar. And solar is quite affordable in Victoria at the moment, and we're seeing people being able to pay it back in a really short period of time, and that's due to the addition of the Solar Victoria rebates. So not only do we get the federal rebate, we're lucky in Victoria, we also get a second rebate through the Victorian government. So how does solar work? I'll quickly explain that to you. So you'll see that in the diagram on the screen. You've got number 1, direct sunlight. So UV light touches number 2, your solar panels. When that happens, it's a process called photovoltaic that converts that sunlight into DC power. And so that DC power travels along to number 3, to your inverter. So you not only need panels, you need an inverter as well. The inverter is really important because it converts that DC power into AC power. AC power is what powers all the appliances in our homes. So when the sun is shining and you're at home during the day and your solar panels are generating, turn on your appliances and you're powering them for free. It's pretty amazing, and you're reducing your need to rely on the grid. And you're powering your house for free from sunshine, renewables. It's pretty amazing. Any excess electricity that you are generating that you don't consume, it does get pushed back into the grid, and you do receive a small tariff for that. Okay, we've reached our key takeaways. So thank you all for holding on thus far. Key takeaways. So this is a brief summary of what we went through this afternoon, and this will become your homework now. So your first step in reducing your energy bills and making some savings would be to make sure that you are on the best energy deal and have a shop around and consider switching your retailer or plan if you aren't on the best one. The second step is to just simply reduce your energy usage through the tips that I've provided with you today. So the first most important thing is to just understand what areas of our homes use the most energy, and then from there you can understand what you need to prioritise. So go through heating, cooling, following by hot water, appliances, and lighting, and tick them all off as you do those things. The third key step is to explore your renewable energy options. So I guess the first step, and the most low cost step, is to invest in an in-home energy monitoring system, or switch to a GreenPower provider. Or if you're ready to make the switch to solar, I highly recommend giving it a go. Because of the rebates, people are experiencing quite quick payback times. So as Greater Dandenong residents, you're all eligible for a free energy consultation. So what that is a 20-minute over the phone call with an energy advisor. So it might be me or one of my other energy advisors that I work with. You can book this service as many times as you like. The reason why you book this service could be that any of the content of today's webinar, if you'd like me to go over it for you, but in the context of your home, that's the reason for booking. Any of the main issues that you identified in that survey, they would be a great reason to book this service. We can also do things like help review your current bill if you need help, We can review quotes for you as well, which is a really handy service. We love helping people find reliable installers, particularly solar products. We can also guide you through the pathways to an all-electric home, or anything else, any major concerns around energy efficiency in the home. We're here to help you out. You can book that service right now using the QR code on your screen, or you can call us on our 1300 number, or shoot an email through. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to check the chat function to see if we have any questions. If you do have anything burning, now is your chance to ask, because you've got me for a couple more minutes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alanna. That was fantastic. So many different diverse ideas, and some of them so simple as well. So really appreciate you taking the time to share. For those of you who do have questions for Alanna, make the most of having her here with us now for another 10 or so minutes. Alanna, we do have a question already in the chat from James. So James says, great presentation. The heating costs are pretty high for such a small heater. Will the savings be high if I follow the temperature settings and if I use a timer? I'd be keen to save every penny where I can.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, unfortunately, those smaller heaters, that's due to the technology that they use, they're just not the most efficient transfer of electricity to heat. So yes, you're very right. If you are using a smaller portable electric heater, I highly recommend using it on a lower setting and use a timer, and only use it for a short period of time. It's also, that advice I would apply to all heaters as well. Just be mindful of your usage. You know, and only turn it on when you really need it, and only turn it on when you are using a space is a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, I love that point you made about energy not used is emissions not generated. I think that's so important. And I think that's a great principle to kind of keep at the forefront of our minds when we are talking about what we as individuals or households can do to fight climate change, is first eliminate waste and then go from there. So you mentioned that AEF is able to assist with finding a reputable solar installation company, which I think is a fantastic resource. It can feel very overwhelming when you start to go down that pathway and you Google Solar Melbourne and all of these websites come up. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about how AEF finds reputable companies, kind of what the process is for working with you to find one?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So yeah, that was one of the main reasons why we exist as energy advisors, is to help people better navigate, particularly the solar market, because we have, what we've seen in the past is that there's a lot of what we call cowboys, solar cowboys, that are sort of quick setup companies that sell really cheap products and sort of leave people invest in them because they're quite cheap, and a couple of years down the track, those systems fail and that company, for whatever reason, is going into liquidation. So a lot of people have, been left with pretty shonky installs. So that's why we provide advice on how you find a reliable installer. So I guess main things to look out for would be the Clean Energy Council accredited retailer accreditation stamp, which should be on their website. You can also go to the Clean Energy Council as well, and they have a nifty little tool where you just enter in your postcode, and they will tell you what providers are accredited according to your postcode, which is really cool. That's a good place to start. Local is always good. Other things to look out for would be a professional looking quote. And there are certain elements on that quote that need to be on there. I won't go through them all now because it's quite exhaustive, but if anyone out there listening does need help, please reach out, because I review quotes on a daily basis. And another good one to do would be to ask family or friends that have had solar installed what their experience was. That's always good recommendations. And to go ahead and read good, reliable review sites online, because you want to make sure that this company's been around for a while, so they're financially sustainable. They're going to honour your warranty, and also people's lived experiences with that company, should be reflected within the reviews as well. So yeah, just some very basic starting points. We also do have vetted suppliers that we partner with. So we have vetted them based on our criteria and the criteria of the councils that we partner with. So you can be assured that, you know, they're not going to use any high pressure sales tactics. You are getting good quality products, and the company is financially sustainable. So we're trying to help take, you know, that hard research work out for just, you know, the everyday person, because sometimes I even find it really hard to navigate that market, and, you know, I work in the industry, so yeah, I can't imagine, you know, what it's like going alone. It's quite difficult.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think all of those are great tips, and definitely demystify the process a little bit. So
Yes.
yeah, that's fantastic. And speaking of solar, just touching on something that Alice mentioned in her presentation as well, this growing phenomenon of solar gardens and kind of community shared microgrids and that sort of thing. Does AEF do any kind of work with those types of projects as well?
Yeah, sure. We've been part of a couple of trials where you would see, usually there's a community space, so maybe a church or a council building that is a good large roof that can have a solar array on it, and then that space can be used to, well, the power that's generated that would be sold back to more vulnerable people in the community at a cheaper rate. So that's one project we've been involved in. We also do a lot of work for helping people navigate solar for their apartment blocks. That's a huge thing. And there's heaps of nifty technologies such as Loom that enable you to share that, or to live share that power you're generating between quite a few different apartments. So that's great technology. Of course, yeah, there's a lot more interest in virtual power plants as well. So if anyone has been approached by anyone to participate in that, you know, you can give us a call. We can explain it to you, let you know if they're reputable or not. Yeah, this space is so amazing because it's so dynamic. It's growing every day, and yeah, it makes me really excited, particularly more of the community-based ideas. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, awesome. I think that probably is a big part of the future in the transition to net zero emissions, is that sharing of technology, and especially as we transition to more higher density kind of inner urban living as well. So yeah, it's great to know that AEF is also involved in that space and can help residents navigate that as well. Just looping back to energy bills, so something that you're obviously very familiar with. I just wondered, in terms of getting an estimated bill from your retailer, with electricity, they're becoming more and more rare with the installation of smart meters that can be read, but it is still quite a big issue, especially for natural gas. Is that something that AEF can kind of help residents advocate for if they receive an estimated bill, or do you have any suggestions for how to cope with that?
Yeah, sure. So you can request to have your meter read. Sometimes they will charge you, however. If you yourself have access to your meter, you can take a photo or a reading and send that into your retailer, and they can adjust your bill then and there for you. And always keep in mind that the retailer will, you know, they will take a reading of your meter eventually, and they will compensate you as well. But yeah, if you are having trouble communicating with your retailer, please reach out, because it can sometimes be a little bit difficult knowing who to call and who to speak to and what to say. So we're always here to help you on that one.
Fantastic, thank you. So we're almost out of time for questions, and just something we've been asking each of our presenters as well. We want to kind of inspire hope in people and not finish on a down note, because this whole issue of climate change can feel quite heavy sometimes. So I'd just love to know, what are you hopeful for in the future? What are you feeling positive about in this space?
I'm feeling really positive about energy efficiency and just implementing these really simple solutions around your home. Every little thing adds up. And also you're growing a movement, you know, because you're shifting your focus to be a bit more energy efficient in the home. even if it's through those little bits and pieces, because you're always going to build on that as you get older. And I think that that's really inspiring for me. It's an area I'm very passionate about, because as I mentioned at the beginning, you know, less energy used means that there's less emissions at the end of the day. And you know, we do need to shift, and we are shifting to what we call an equitable zero carbon society. So that's a big part of a lot of projects that we do. We make sure that no one gets left behind in that transition. Yeah, so I'm really excited and positive about simple changes in the home that anyone can implement. So making those changes accessible to all is really important.
Thank you so much, Alanna. I think the work you're doing and these presentations today are definitely a huge step in that direction as well, in making it a lot more accessible for everyone, no matter whether you're renting, own your own home, apartment, standalone house. So yeah, it's been wonderful having you here both this afternoon and with your session this morning. For anyone who missed out on Alanna's session this morning, she did a fantastic presentation focused on people who are renting. So definitely check that out when we upload it in the next couple of days. So with that being said, I'll hand over to Lily to introduce our final segment for day 4. Thanks, Alanna.
Thank you.